Hi, everybody. This is Jim from the Pain PT. Good to see everybody today. I have a success story today, which I love to bring to you guys. I have Paul here. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, we just talked off air how important these success stories can be to people who are starting the journey or trying to get through it and are struggling. They turn to these stories. So I'm always looking to share them with people, and I'm happy you're here today. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you and have you share your story.
Okay, well, typical person, sort of later in life, I ran into TMS, but didn't know what it was. I've always had a lot of stress in my life, really difficult childhood, growing up, and then I got into a demanding career, and I learned how to deal with stress in many ways. I was always proud of myself that I could handle stress and bring it on, type of thing, and getting the things that I could deal with, and I just like a champion of that. But as life progressed, the stress got harder and harder to deal with sometimes, especially when I got older. And I was having a contract. I was dealing with a different company, kind of a refit of their operation, and it was running this really difficult situations that sort of, in my mind, reminded me of my childhood, and it started to play on me that way. And all of a sudden, I started to get tremendous amount of back pain, and it progressed to my feet, so all the way up both legs. It really was painful, and I was like, I've had back pain before, but this is unusual. So, start the doctor shopping. They don't know. Go
And
see
when
a
it
physician.
started, you didn't have, there was no anything physical that happened that you thought maybe you did something, or there was nothing at all that happened.
No, just started one day, and it started to get worse, and then it really got worse. And I said, okay, I got to go see a doctor. Doctor didn't know, so I went to see a physiotherapist. Physiotherapist says, oh, I think you're back, right? So we started doing therapy, and it wasn't doing anything. Matter of fact, it was getting worse. So I'm thinking about this, like, oh, what's going on here? Like, I'm getting worried about this. Usually I can get this sort of. I've had back pain before, and I've sorted it out. And I was still carrying on with this contract, and it was getting, worse in the contract. So the point is, things got bad. I couldn't get it solved. Pain got worse. Couldn't walk. I started to retreat, and I said to the contract, I had to quit. I said, I can't do this anymore. I couldn't even go to work. Right. So then I started to stay in my house. I couldn't get any answers. I was, flying through the internet trying to figure out solutions, couldn't figure it out. Then I retreated into my life. I just started stopped doing things. I didn't want to drive because my feet hurt, couldn't use my brakes pedals very well. And
Mm.
I became very much into my house and didn't do anything, and I didn't go out socially. My life got smaller and smaller. And then before that, it was very, very open life and do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so this is like the typical snowball effect we see, right? The vicious circle of chronic pain. And you're not getting answers. The pain's not getting better. It's getting worse. Your world's getting smaller. You're right. You're probably getting more depressed, getting down, right? The whole cycle that we see.
Yeah, depression came on. I was like, oh my gosh, so retreating. So uh, I didn't understand what I could do about it, but my life was just degenerating in front of me. So
What were the doctors telling you? What were they saying? What were some of the diagnoses you were getting?
oh, I had a back pain that was impinging on my lower spine, and that was maybe causing some muscles to be very stressed out. And I said, it's in my tops of my feet. It's like I got a sunburn. How can you explain that? And they scratched their head, and go, I don't know. And sometimes it's weird stuff. And the physiotherapist, kudos to her, she was very good. And she says, I really don't understand. But she kept giving me therapy, to work it out. It just made it worse. So I go, well, this is not working.
So you weren't getting answers, which, right, usually doesn't make people feel better either, right? You're not getting any kind of reassurance or what this even is. So that doesn't help the brain, I imagine.
No. And so in the internet, I discovered John Sarno, and I read his books. I got, maybe there's something here, and maybe it's not a physical issue. Maybe it's a mental issue, you know.
How did you find Sarno? How did you come across him?
I was just Googling, and I came across Sarno, which led me to TMS Wiki. And then, okay, I said, okay, I better read the Sarno guy. And I started reading the wiki. And piece by piece, it started to fall in together, right? So after, doing that investigation,
And how many years did you have the pain, or how long did you have the pain for before you, from the beginning to when you found Sarno?
a year,
Year.
yeah,
Okay.
and like, and that year was just like constant drop, life falling down, falling down, falling down. So, it just I had a lot of time on my hands, obviously. But then the part is I went into a book called Unlearn Your Pain, Dr. Schubner. I bought that and I went through it's a workbook. So I went through it and like, I go, oh, that's interesting. And it was basically doing a path of my life since I was a child to today, and areas where stress would pop up, areas of stress would pop up. And I also equated that at the same time when I had back pain, popped up. I even had the back surgery done, and it did alleviate the pain, but not immediately. It took 7 months to alleviate it, but in that 7 month, I never got pain reduction until I went to psychotherapy discussions. Pain clinic, where they said, how to deal with relaxation therapy as well as physical therapy. That sort of improved it fairly quickly, and I never really got out of it. It was because of the combination physical and mental therapy. So there was something that said, oh, there's something there with the mental therapy. It was relaxation therapy and exercise. So I started to do those things because I went back, well, they were helping me before, maybe I'll do the same thing again. So that was the direction. And with the Scrivener workbook, it was along those lines, right? Trying to understand and then getting into relaxation therapy and then getting into calming myself and not letting get out of hand, right? So it sort of gave me an idea. Then I discovered there was an emotional connection from my childhood to what was happening at my last work contract. I was running into a bully. A bully was bullying me really hard. And I grew up with my brother, who was a big bully, and we would fight and he would bully me all the time. So I made the connection. I goes, wow, that's interesting. So then I had to get into some sort of discussion about what was causing that. And I delved down to that with a psychotherapist who specialized in these emotional issues and was familiar with TMS. And we did some emotional work. And I had this every time I thought about what was going on in my childhood, I had this block. It was this block. I would get the emotions would come up, and then a defense mechanism would come in play and stop it.
Yeah, I think that's really important to highlight, stop it for a minute, because that is something we see a lot. Like that is a real thing where people don't, the emotion's there, but then it's gone. And then there's a suppression or repression of emotion. And it's a very real thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, I had a hard time overcoming it, but this therapist had this, I guess, specialized ability, like ISCPD or something like that.
Yeah, ISTDP.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, we went through some fairly heavy sessions, but I eventually broke through that hold, and I just went. Everything came out. The emotions came out. Boom, and it was, crying, was yelling and screaming. I was like, I go, wow, that is an interesting thing. And after that, I started to feel much better, and I continued on, and I could now get in touch with my emotions. So I know when anger would come up. I know when sadness would come up. Those are the two key emotions for me.
Yeah. So those two, this are people listening, they were sort of blocked in you, right? You can maybe say I was sad or angry, but you didn't feel them. You didn't never emerged, right,
No.
as feelings before. But then you're able to start, and once you opened up, then you're able to start to, yeah, feel them a bit
Yeah.
more, recognize them.
And it's like now I got the understanding, okay, you get to feel them, they come in your front door, they knock on the door, you come in and bring them into the living room, you sit and talk, feel good and relax. And then you say, okay, I've been with them, I feel it, out the back door you go. And that's it. That was the sessions. I started to get into these emotional sessions.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I started to feel less TMS happening. And I realized, okay, there's a connection there. And getting rid of the emotions every time I got angry or got sad. And then I learned to understand that fear was a trigger. And that's when I came across your website and your videos, which I thought were extremely helpful. And I looked at it and goes, you kept focusing on fear is the big issue. And sure enough, my TMS would start in the morning and it would grow all during the day. And by the time the evening rolls around, it would be, high level. So I realized that my amygdala was starting off in the morning fresh, cool, and then it started to warm up, started to get going, and the fears, anxiety, and they weren't in check. It just kept growing. So I realized that, okay, what your videos are saying is that keep it under control. In other words, when things start going and you can feel it, start to get anxious, calm yourself down. So, relaxation therapy or whatever the choice was, I found that progressive relaxation worked a lot for me and journaling worked for me. And that would calm my amygdala down. So it would be up and in and down and up and down, but it never got up to the higher points like before. It was like this,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
weren't doing anything. And when you said up and down, would that also correlate with your back pain?
No, yeah, exactly. My pain in my feet and my back. Yeah. So I made the connection and I said, okay, let's do this. And then I realized that, okay, I got to challenge myself. Like, as Gordon said, the therapist, he says, challenge yourself. Um, and I said, okay, I started to challenge myself, driving further, walking further. And I was amazed that I could. And soon after about a month or two, I was driving again. I was walking again. I was exercising again. I was challenging myself and I took on that task. Okay, I'm going to challenge myself, get back in my life. And yes, I know I'm going to run into resistance, but I'm going to talk to myself and say, I don't care. I'm going to do this and continuing to relax as well into that situation. So I ended up grabbing my life back. I ended up
Yeah,
doing
that's
more things.
that's amazing. That I just kind of I'm always going to pause you when you feel like you say something really important, which is a lot of things. What you described there is so important for everybody listening when you're dealing with fear, which we call anxiety. Paul's saying you got to challenge it, and that's absolutely the answer. You need to face the fear, whatever way it's manifesting, and do the things you fear because you want to get your life back. And then what you see is it goes down. It doesn't, it actually gets worse when you avoid, and it gets better when you, right, do the thing you're fearing, you confront it. So I think I want everybody to hear that if you're avoiding out of fear, you're only going to get worse, even though we understand why you do it because you're not feeling good, but you got to do these things to get better.
Correct. And that's how I found that was my antidote. That was, not only my toolkit to deal with stress, because that would control my TMS to a certain degree, but also controlling my fear. And I was facing the fear, facing the bullies like I did with the emotional issues, facing things that I was afraid to do, and then taking on new challenges to me where it was a key issue. So taking on something new where I could push myself and see what happened. And always the payoff was I faced it and it didn't get worse. And I felt better about it. And now I could do something else. And after repeating it, the pain wasn't there. So I ended up getting acclimatized to something new and the pain would lessen over time because I
Yeah,
challenged that amygdala. I'm saying, I'm safe. I'm able to do this. I'm safe.
that's right. Yeah. And that amygdala, just like you said, it started out with the initial right pain, but then it just got built up at the conditioning pattern and the fear being built, right? The association. So you're breaking all that down. And that's hard work, everybody listening. It's not easy, right? Maybe share some of those things that symptoms would pop up when you challenge it. Do you have any remembrances of that?
Oh, yeah, constantly. So, one of the challenges that I always wanted to uh, be a boat, get a boat and drive it, and that is a huge challenge, especially, on a big lake, right? So, I had been a member of a small little yacht club, and I always liked, going on boats, but I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's too much. I can't get myself involved in a boat. I wouldn't know what to do. I have no experience in that. So I took some courses and I worked with some people and I said, I take it like little bites, chomp, chomp, a little bigger. And then eventually I said, okay, I'm going to get myself a boat. And I got myself a boat. And that was an experience in itself. Like, okay, how do you do it? Nobody was sitting there telling me how to do it. So I just said, okay, I'm going to do this. But when I'm getting prepared, my pain jumped up. Okay. And I'm going, okay. I could back off and stay on the land and not tackle this. But no, I said, okay, I've got this far. I'm going to go ahead. And sure enough, I go out, slowly go out and, accept the pain, but then go out and, I'm driving the boat out, and it's like dealing with it. And all of a sudden you start to say, that's a challenge. I face it. I did it. I got out into the harbor. I got into the water. Okay. And then that was okay. And then coming back, I go, oh my gosh, I got to come back and dock this thing. And I go again, worry, 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 right? I said, okay, this is a challenge, you're gonna do it. And I, had some bumps on it, but I eventually got it in. And getting off that boat, I was like, oh, thank God, But I
Yeah.
said, I did it. Yes, I had pain, and yes, I think it was worth it because I challenged myself. And from there on, I would go out, and each time I went out, the pain would be there, but eventually it wasn't there.
That's
Because
what you got to understand. And this is a distinction, everybody listening, between acute pain and chronic pain. Acute pain, which again, we think everything's acute pain. We rest, we pull back, we wait for the pain to go away, then we resume activities. And that's why we all pull back. But the thing with chronic pain, as you know, you can't do that. You actually have to go through the pain, but you have to understand, like you did, and use some of these strategies, which you've learned, right, to make sure you're dealing with it in a good way, because it's there, and I'm sure it was very uncomfortable, and you were feeling it, but you continued through it.
and still today, like I've since then I've done other things to challenge myself, like going on large trips to Europe, and then places I've never been before, and worrying about things, right? But unfortunately, at the same time, I had some medical issues that cropped up, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't go there, because what happens if I get sick or whatever? I said, well, there's hospitals there. If you need to go, you need to go. But the point is, you got to go and do this. And again, a trepidation, pain would come up. Getting on an airplane, the pain would come up. But you do it again and go. And then it worked out okay. And again, same thing I did with my TMS. I investigated my health problems and found the solution through different providers to deal with that health problem. So, like I said, there's always going to be a challenge, and you can sit back and retreat from it and let that get you, or you can continue to face it. And facing it, in my experience, works best because then you can control it. The
Yeah,
best.
that's what we want you to have, cortical control. And that word facing too, that's the right word. I say that ad nauseum to people. You don't want to fight it. You don't want to flee. You don't want to freeze. You want to face. And that's the right state to be in.
Yeah, and that's the base that works for me, is like getting courage to face it and doing things outside your comfort zone. And the payoff is that eventually you get more control back, because when your TMS flares, and I said I still have flares when I get anxious about something, and I'll know, okay, I know what it is. Okay, what's going on? I'll sit there and think, what's happened today? My pain is up. What's going on in the last 24 hours? And inevitably, it's always something that I'm worried about, some fear that I have. And I say, okay, is that realistic? Is that really going to happen? Or is that just your brain trying to protect you by sending you thoughts? Oh, this is going to be bad, so you better retreat from that. Hell no, you got to go at it. You got to go
That's
at
the
it.
answer. Hell no, I like it. Yeah. And you just, you once you go through enough times, you know this now. Now it's like, wow, it's unbelievable, because people do not believe, they do not believe, doctors don't believe that fear, which is from your brain, can cause these symptoms. People think, oh yeah, it might make it a little worse, but they don't think it actually is the direct cause, which, as you know, it is. So the anxiety shoots up. And I think that's important what you said, that look, this can still happen. I have also recovered from really chronic long-term anxiety and symptoms. And there's times, like you said, it acts up. And so we have to remember that that's okay. That's just the way the brain is. But it's how you handle those things that determine whether it just settles right back down, right? Or quiets down, or just ramps up into something worse.
That's right. And going to see doctors. Doctors, they scratch their head and go, they want to pin on something physical. And I went to see a physio or psychotherapist, and they said, they scratched their head. I don't know. There's only two people I met that understood this. A lot of them don't get it. And but this is my local area. I'm talking about the world. There are definitely people who understand it, and that's the the gift of the internet to me was I could find somebody who understood this, find people that are experiencing this, and more importantly, how to deal with it. If it wasn't for the internet, I would still be in the same position. So thankfully for different sites I've gone to, including your site. Your site was one of the better ones for me, because all the videos to education. Education was the key. Understanding that I'm not alone, understanding there's a solution to this, but it's in my hands to do this. It can't just be in a form pill or someone, some talking to me. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm the control in this.
Yeah, you are the solution. And yeah, you're exactly right. You've got to take control and and do these things. But once you, like you said, the education, the understanding gives you the ability to move forward. And not that it's easy, right? Like maybe share that because we just said off air, look, it's easier to talk about it when you're feeling better. But when you're in the heat of the battle, heat of the moment, I mean, what was that like at times? Because you're probably getting plagued with pain. Maybe your mind is racing with things, anxious thoughts. And how did you handle it in those moments?
Oh, it was only a couple of days ago to me. It happened again. Like I was good for a while, and all of a sudden I'm trying to challenge myself and get involved in the music world and getting involved with a band and just to have some fun, right? And taking this step further, and all of a sudden, no, this is going to be, now I'm involved with this. Now I don't have to get on stage, and it's like that. I go, well, what have I done here? Okay, I'm taking something that I'm maybe not so secure with, and so that got me thinking that maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not going to make this. Maybe people are going to laugh, whatever, right? And it's like the fear. And so what happens? The pain comes back. It comes back, comes flying back, and I can't sleep that night. I'm all upset. I go, and I know, oh, I know what this is. It's anxiety. It's fear of this challenge that I'm putting myself into. I've seen it before with the boat, other different things. Okay, I know this is going to be. So I have to calm myself down again, jump into the relaxation. I don't do relaxation every day. It's not a common occurrence for me anymore, but I jump back into it. My toolkit, I understand what it is, deep breathing, relaxing. Okay, now I know what it is. And then the next day, it's not as bad. The day after, it's over.
Yeah,
So
perfect. There you go. Because I just want everybody to know, look, this is a human condition. And if you're live with anxiety your whole life, like you said, from stuff from childhood, it can ramp up. And now we're putting the pieces together to understand that, hey, this is a neural pathway for you, your back pain, leg pain, where it comes out. And I get people saying, well, I don't want that, Jim. I just want to feel the anxiety. I go, well, the brain does what it does. The idea is you understand what it is, but you do so well now, and you're able to use your strategies and tools to calm down, recognize it, and then it just dissipates. And I think that's a huge success. So success doesn't mean you never have a symptom anymore. I think people think that I need to be perfect, right? That's another problem people have, perfectionism. But
yeah,
the idea that you can handle this, and
yeah.
does go back down.
I think the brain knows what it's doing because, giving me particularly the foot and leg pain, it immobilizes me. I don't want to walk. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to sit down. And when I sit down, it goes away. When I move around, it's there more, right? So I know it's the brain trying to protect me because if I'm immobilized, I can't go and do things to challenge it. It's
Yeah.
protecting me in its own way, but it's not the right way.
It's not the right way, but it's powerful. It uses your body. It uses our bodies to do that. And what a powerful way. And then it also we're tricked already because we think all pain is physical. So then you pull back and yeah, if short term you feel relief and better, but yeah, you're digging a hole for yourself, as you know. And I that's the thing that gets me. If we could get people when they're in acute stage and teach them this, they wouldn't have to go through the whole chronic stage and come back out of it. But even if you do, like yourself and many other people I see, you can get out of this. You're not stuck. The brain's neuroplastic. It can absolutely change, but it takes various amounts of time to retrain it.
Well, certainly it takes a lot of time. And I know from Curable, I was involved with Curable and I came on their groups and we still meet together, a smaller part of that group. And the people that I started with, Some of them have gotten to the point that I am. Some of them are still behind and working at it. But when you talk to them, they've all improved. They've all been able to do something about it. And it's really about how much they understand it and what they do about it. So I see that they're all moving ahead. It's just some have a different speed than others.
Yeah. And that's important too for everybody listening that look, I always tell people throw your timeline in the garbage can. You don't know. Everybody's different. I've seen people it flip like that, and other people take a couple of years and more. So it's how long was the process? Do you feel like where you took once you found Sarno and stuff to where you are now to feel better?
Well, that would be 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
Years from the start of investigating to doing with emotional work. It was like a journey. I kept getting, I'll following this path and then I'd be off this path over here, over there, but I eventually got back on the path. And then, so 3 years. So basically in the last little over a year, it's been pretty much under control. So it was sort of investigation stage about a year of heavy duty, mental work, and then another year of just being able to deal with it and challenge it and know it you control. So it's like a process, understanding and then working hard at trying to get a grab of it. And then once you've got it, it's then accepting the fact that it does this once in a while, but what causes this to go up and down.
Yeah, that's the key, and to stay in the right place in your mind to work to deal with it in a healthy way, right? In a way for it to the alarm to go back off. But 3 years, it sounds like a long time. But you think about how long people have had these conditions in your whole life. You said you had these patterns, so it's not just like, oh, you have my pain for a year. No, these patterns you probably had for decades. So you're working on breaking down a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it really is that. And then sometimes I wonder the things I had in the past, they surfaced, and I was, had physical pains for a certain time, and then I somehow beat it or retreated it and went back. It went back under again, and it comes up. So it's interesting when I saw that Schubner diagram. It sort of tracked. When my stress was really high, so was my physical ailments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I love to talk about these stories with people and how your journey, like just to highlight again, you got the education, you did the curable groups, you really got into a lot of emotional awareness and expression. So you took that piece, the mental piece, right, of the understanding and knowledge, the relaxation piece of right breathing and quieting your system when it's ramping up, and then the exposure piece which we talked about, that was like a big piece for you with working with the fear, right? So all those pieces they seem to help you in the overall practice.
Yeah, it's like pieces sewing together, the pieces of the puzzle, and how they work. And certainly when even 3 years ago, what's today, the research that's happened in the last 3 years is tremendous. And since I guess I got at sort of the earlier stages of what was going on, but it's just, blossoming, a lot of different research available and education. So I think, and there's a lot of different things happening out there, different groups are getting together, even some medical groups are getting together. So I see this as definitely a growing science that is going to be able to even make this mainstream at some point, and hopefully treat more people because it's scary stuff when you get it and you don't know what to do, and that just feeds into the problem.
That's it. That's what I said. If we could get people earlier, we could put this an end to it quicker because part of the problem is it's not anybody's fault, but the medical training and healthcare practitioners are not up on this. They don't understand the power of fear and anxiety as one of the main driving emotions, which you just highlighted today. And they make people more scared. They're making people more anxious, unbeknownst to them. I don't know what's going on. We're not sure what this is. Failed treatments. Wow, I don't know what's going on. Well, it's not getting better. And so you can imagine, right, an anxious brain getting way more anxious.
Oh yeah, just like I remember coming back from the physiotherapist and being more scared going than I was going forward. Like because
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on. We couldn't figure this. Why is it not working? Ah,
Yeah, and so like it does literally, it's that vicious circle. We talk about the chronic pain cycle. They call it the fear avoidance model, is one of the models that was studied way in the 90s, and it's so true. And it said it's similar to what you're saying, is that you get the pain or symptom, you go into a fear cycle where you go into catastrophizing, you go into hypervigilance, avoidance, and then it leads to disuse, depression, disability, and you go around and around, and that circle gets tighter and smaller and smaller. And some people are literally bedbound that I see. I mean, it could take you to a really dark place. So it's everybody listening out there, there's hope. There's you can change your brain. It's neuroplastic, and you're living proof of that, Paul.
and that's what I was saying, everybody. What 2 years ago I was despairing because I didn't know what to do and how to do it. And I'm just telling you, there is hope out there. There are people that I've met that were worse off than me, and they've seen improvements. So it definitely is out there. You have to educate, you have to understand, you have to do the work, and then and challenge yourself. And it'll come. It's not easy, but it'll come. It sounds easy, but it's not easy. And eventually, that brain will pay attention and it'll start to adapt to what you're doing. So, I wish, when I first started, the biggest thing I was looking for was hope. Gosh, somebody must have a solution. I really I'm grasping. I need help. Well, and there's a lot more solutions and help today, but it's very simple when you understand it. And Jim just does it very well in explaining it. And that was probably Jim's website is probably the most cohesive to me, where it's all together. And then if you pay attention and look at it and then start to do the work, it's there.
Yeah, thanks. It's there, but like again, I want to highlight the idea that I say you get the knowledge, you get the understanding is one step, very important. Maybe the harder step for some people is the action, because you're having very real symptoms that are kicking up in your face and body, and it's not easy to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna translate this knowledge I have, and I'm gonna keep going on the boat, and my back's flaring up and the legs are going, and you go, are you sure? You think this is what it is? So it is not easy for people to do this.
Yeah, it's a brain pushing back against what you're trying to do. And you just got to talk to your brain saying, I know you're trying to push this back. I know you're trying to make my life small again, but the hell with you. I'm going to move ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
see,
the
there's that challenge, there's that facing, there's that spark to stand up to this. You have to, and again, just you shared your story about the bully. What you're saying right now is such epitome of a different person. Hey, I'm not going to let you control me and bully me anymore. Like your empowerment was just showing through there. And so that's one of the brain patterns, right, that you had was the bully pattern. And you're standing up to the bully in a way. And it's a protective pattern, like you said. It is trying to protect us from what the brain perceives as too much, too dangerous.
Yeah, I think, and even when you're talking to, it kind of sounds weird, but you're talking to your brain, you're talking to yourself, and you're trying to calm the amygdala from going crazy. And by the big brains telling a little amygdala, like, okay, relax, we got this. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do the protective thing anymore. Because you know what? We know how to deal with this. So calm down. And it's just a machine. The amygdala is just a little tape machine. You just got to calm it down. It's the big
Yeah.
brain, we call it.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you said, little tape machine. Just take all the personal meaning out of it. It's just a little machine in there. It's just a little emotional generator. It's a protector, right? It's just taking what it's learned and kicking out reactions. It is a computer. It's a program, software program, basically infused with emotions. So yeah, fantastic. I mean, you've really epitomized the process. And I know we've talked right at various times, sessions at different times, and you were at different stages. And it's so incredible to see her now. And the highlight, it took time, 3 years of working through it. And I don't think that's unreasonable, although it can sound like a very long time. But would you say it was worth it?
If it wasn't for this, I would be definitely in a really bad shape. Um, and I've seen some people in the groups that were in bad shape, worse than me. And they are not the level that I am, but they're moving ahead. And that just gives me, and I try and help them along too. It gives me a lot of not pleasure, but pride that this can be dealt with. And there's a solution out there. So groups I found were very, very good, especially if the group leader is very knowledgeable. And they can help along. That way, you see what's going on with your fellow group members, and you help each other by talking about not only TMS but life challenges and how to deal with it. And the group that I was in, I was sort of giving them information that I had learned, and they had not got that information. So I was giving them information and where to find that information and to help. And they looked at it like they were very, oh, okay, helpful. And they would gather that information. They'd go research it. Next time we meet, they'd say, oh, I learned something. I learned something about that. So I says, yes, it's pebbles along the road, and you're going to basically get going in that direction. So keep doing that, and you got to have someone to support you, and that's the value of group sessions. The single sessions, like with a specialist like yourself, Jim, is really helpful to sort of point out, okay, you should do this, but the group sort of, you're
Yeah,
in
the
the,
support, you have like a support, right? And you camaraderie, and you guys have developed a nice group. It sounds like, where it's curable, and which is awesome. And then you took it after that, right? And you guys kept going privately or on your own.
yes, we did. And some of them have continued on with the different groups as well as this. So it becomes a shared journey. And that's what it is. You're in a journey together, and ups and downs that life throws at you. And I experienced some of these people's, they talk about the things that happen and how it affects it. Normally, if they didn't have TMS, you go, wow, that's not very good. That's a problem. But then you see it through TMS eyes, how you can feel their pain coming up, and then they
Mm,
have to deal with it, right? And
yeah.
you reach out and help them, right? But they they appreciate it, but again, they're sort of, they're locked in at this stage. Some of them are gonna make slow progressive stages. Some of them are very fast.
Yeah, that's right. And that's again, it just varies from person to person. I've seen it myself, some quick, some slow, and in between. And it's all okay. I mean, it's just again, how much our brain's been affected based on lots of variables from, your childhood, trauma, maybe how long you had it, how much conditioning, how much work you're putting into it, if you're approaching it the right way. I mean, there's lots of variables at play here, current levels of stress, so many things. But the key is you can retrain the brain. The brain is neuroplastic, everybody. It can absolutely change. It got to this place and it can get to a different place. And I think that's important to see.
If you don't understand the brain science behind it, it's easy to condemn yourself as, oh, I'm crazy. I'm not good at this. I don't understand. But when you understand the brain science, and thankfully for the research, that you put together and other stuff that you've found in all different studies, it makes sense when you understand the whole thing. But a lot of times people don't see the whole picture. They only read a snippet here, a snippet there, and then they're talking to a doctor who doesn't understand, and that doctor, oh, that's not right. That's poo-poo with that. They're just detractors. This is not, I would say, let's talk to a doctor who has TMS, and let's see what he or she says. And when
Mhm.
you go to those sources, they understand what the doctor is saying. Well, it's the physical. No, if it's you check the physical out first, because sometimes you can have a physical issue. Sometimes you have both physical and TMS. The doctor should be able to check out the physical aspect, especially a doctor who understands TMS, and rule it out. This is physical nature, or this is TMS nature. And I find that there are enough of those doctors out there, more coming on stream, that understand that this is not just a physical malady, it's also a mental malady.
Yeah, yeah, it's changing slowly. Slowly we're getting there, and which is good, but there's still too many doctors, not purposely, but inadvertently creating worse problems for people, right? We're giving them, and I see this all the time where somebody sees a doctor, and as soon as I see them after, they're actually worse, and it's literally just got information that wasn't positive, or wasn't reassuring, and they felt worse. And I said, what's that? That's your brain. It's impossible. That's you get the MRI back, and your back was exactly the same as before you got the MRI back.
Yep, and they put you through unnecessary things that, and I won't say it's ignorance, they just haven't come across the right information. And doctors are busy people. They don't have time to educate themselves generally. They learn what they learn in medical school and what they've garnered along the way. But there are other specialists, again, who have an interest in that, and usually those people have TMS themselves or someone that they really care about, in their personal life who has the same thing, TMS.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm really happy for you, Paul. You've done a tremendous job, and I know you're helping other people too within your groups. And I'm so happy you decided to come on and share your story, because I think it's every story is powerful, and yours is the same way. And so you're doing great. And sure, you get little upticks here and there, and that's so important to understand too, that that's normal because you have emotions. You're not an emotionless person, as you probably know now. And yeah, is there anything else you want to share with in the audience before you go?
Yeah, I think I once thought I'm going to find a cure for this. I'm not going to have this problem ever again. But I realized over time it's a lifetime issue. It's not what I say 100% curable. It is manageable, and manageable in the sense that you can live your life without it being a significant factor, and you can get back to what you're doing. And this will become only an occasional irritant, like a mosquito on a summer day, and that to me is where your success is going to be. It's not going to go away completely, because as you go through life, you're going to run into some storms in life, and that TMS will just take that opportunity to jump up. But you got to be able to deal with it, have your toolkit, and resolve to understand this too will pass if I do what I'm doing. Don't fall back. Always be aware that it's there. It's not there to try to hurt you. It's there to protect you.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
understand that that's what a program is. That the amygdala is programmed that way. You're not going to change it. So just deal with it, and deal with it in a way that you calm down that alarm bell, and you'll go back into a normal rhythm of your life.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Paul. And you love your story, and always good to connect to you. So we'll catch up with you later.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, thanks a bunch.